Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a Christmas card to share with you featuring some of my favorite things products. I am using the Pile of Fun stamp set for my favorite things, which is an older one, and I'm also going to use the city block background, which is a really subtle background that I'm going to add to, well, the background of my card to keep it really simple. Now, I decided to create this Christmas card first of all because as always, I'm liking Christmas cards at the end of the year, and last year I joined the Get Cracking on Christmas by Jen Shirkus. Definitely do join in this year. It's a bit different, but there is still tons of inspiration. Jen is joining you while crafting to create some Christmas cards. Aside from that, I saw on my favorite things website that there is a challenge this year, Ready Set Christmas, to actually also launch your creations of Christmas cards already in the beginning of the year, so that by the end, hopefully, we have enough Christmas cards. So that's why this card is really focused on my favorite things products, because I'm joining that challenge with this one. I love this image. It's illustrated by Tiddly Inks. These girls are just fabulous. And since there was a question in one of my previous videos to just slow down on the coloring of the hair, you can see here that I just didn't sped it up as the rest of the coloring. It's a bit slower. Now, just to indicate what I'm doing, I'm always starting at the edge of the hair and I'm flicking towards the inner part. As you can see here, I'm also following the lines. I personally find it really hard still to color hair from humans or illustrations that appear to be human or anything like that. It's not that simple if you want to use this technique, and you need to try it often to get where you want to be. Now, the thing is that personally for me, whenever I'm coloring people, Tiddly Inks as well as Rochelle Annemiller, according to me, are really helpful. Their illustrations already have these guides when it concerns how to flick or how the hairline is going, and so I'm really using those lines to help me guide how I need to flick. Of course, flicking, it's a bit losing control at the same time, so it can be that you're just going everywhere. Something that is really useful to know as well is that the more vertical you hold your marker, the thinner the lines can be that you're adding to the paper, which gives you this really texture, that hair texture kind of feel. Another thing that in the beginning I found really hard when coloring hair was that it's okay to have some white areas. Actually, the white areas that are left over in between the flicks that you're doing can be the highlights of the hair. So you don't need to go over the hair specifically to fill it all up. It can be perfectly fine by just leaving a few white areas, just see them as highlights. In the beginning, I tended to go over everything because I really wanted to fill everything up. Lately, I have been able to let go of that. Not that I always have white areas, because sometimes the flicking or the amount of markers that you're using are really filling up the area. But if not, just accept the white space, see it as highlights, and just enjoy the end result that you get. Now, this will improve every time you try it again and again, and if you want to make sure that you have this texture, you can always try with your markers to hold it more vertically when coloring, or just take a piece of scrap paper and just hold your marker vertical, a bit more horizontal, and you will see the difference. So definitely do that, and I think it is doable for everyone. Just have a go with it and enjoy it. So the rest of the coloring I sped up a bit more. I am using these bright colors today. I'm using tons of colors in the coloring actually, but I was really inspired by Laura Basson, who always says the Christmas rainbow, it's going from red to just green, and then you have the yellow, maybe orange in between. I was inspired by that, so I have this yellow dress, the green jacket, then the scarf will be red, and I have all these colors, and then later on I decided to also use these colors on the background to help me just give it a bit more fun and interest. So in case you want to revisit Copic combinations, you can always find them on my blog post. I have everything listed: red, yellow, green, skin, hair, brown, things like that, to help you with your Copic combinations. Or if you want to later on revisit combinations and you don't want to watch this video again, then you can always check that out. So here for the red, I actually started with quite light red markers, and I didn't found that there was enough impact. There wasn't enough going on, so I actually ended up adding a darker marker. So you can definitely, while coloring, change up your idea and just add another marker if you want to. Sometimes you just see that it's not working how you had it in your mind, so just switch it. And if you start with lighter colors, you can always go over it with darker ones, because you can easily cover up the lighter colors with the darker markers. Of course, if you go immediately dark and you find it too dark, that's another story. That's a bit harder, but you do you. Now, in case you go outside the lines and you don't like it, as I don't like it, there is always a colorless blender that can help you get rid of those tiny boo-boos that you made. Now, personally, I find that red is really the hardest thing to get rid of, so normally I'm extra patient when it comes to red markers when I color, but the scarf with all of the curls and stuff, it was a bit harder. Now just use the colorless blender, colorless blender. And if you want to, you can easily heat set it afterwards. For me personally, in my head at least, it works. It helps with the drying process of that colorless blender, which also means that the moisture is immediately dried up on your paper, so it cannot again start spreading. But that's in my opinion something that works. Maybe it does for you, maybe it doesn't. So here on the shoes, my lightest marker was a bit further away from the mid-tone and my darkest, but just add another layer and that works perfectly fine. I'm going to use a matching die here to cut this girl out, and then we can play with the background. Now, as I said, I'm going to reuse these colors and actually the Christmas rainbow, according to Laura Besson, to have a bit of fun with my background. So I took these colorful cardstocks from Concord and 9th. I'm using Cranberry, Poppy, Marmalade, Buttercup, Parsley, but I'm also using Key Lime from Gina K Designs. That's this wonderful bright green. And I'm going to cut some slivers of each of these colorful cardstocks that I will later on use to put like a colorful rainbow, just really subtle, in the background. I don't want my strips necessarily to be the same size, so I'm just making sure that I'm aligning it straight. It's a bit harder when you have these leftover pieces of paper, but it worked out fine. So I just aligned it and then trimmed it to some slivers. Now this is the Gina K Designs cardstock. There's also really soft green in the Concord and 9th rainbow assortment of cardstock, but I found it just a bit too soft with all of the other vibrant colors that I was using, so I just put this one in between. Now here we are going to create that rainbow, and then I actually wanted it as kind of a banner on my card. Many ways to do that. I will later on play a tiny bit with positioning so that you can see all of the options. But first off, we are going to create that background with the city block background. This is a gorgeous stamp set, and I'm going to just use it in a really subtle way. I'm going to use the gravel ink from the stamp market. I decided to not put it in my MISTI, but just keep it on my work surface. Add all of the ink and then press that paper on top. Next, I went over all of the areas to make sure that I had a good impression, because you cannot reposition it afterwards if you miss the spot. So take your time, press everywhere, and then you have this really subtle city block background. Now next I added the stripes that I just cut out, that I trimmed down, and as you can see, you can put it horizontally, you can put it vertically, you can put it diagonally, you can put it in the other way there diagonally. Many options. I really wanted a girl to be next to these colors because she is wearing the same colors, so I found that really fun. So I'm going to use this in a diagonal way in the end. But as you can see, you can really play with that, but I like the idea that she was on the left side and then diagonal was going upwards from the left to the right. So I'm laying down these stripes again. I have just this one strip. I have this one strip that is a bit shorter because my leftover piece was a bit shorter. So I'm first going to put that down so that I have enough of it to cover the whole width of my panel, and then I will put all of the others against it. I'm just using some liquid glue, any glue will do. Just create your own rainbow or your fun accent on your background. This still is a clean and simple card, but as you can see, you can go rainbow with clean and simple as well. I also think that it's not really necessary to put the stripes if you don't want to, because the girl is really colorful, but it's definitely an option. So I made sure to add her, and then I could play a bit with my sentiments. I'm going to use a sentiment from the Bitty Holiday Wishes. You have tons of possibilities, and depending on the size that you have or the area that you have to fill it up with, you can decide which one you're using. Now something that you also can do is to white heat emboss this sentiment on one of the darker colors, or just stamp it on one of the darker stripes that you added to your panel. But I just added it on just above. I'm putting everything on top of my card base, and then I'm going to trim off all of the excess all at once. This is something that I like to do because this way I'm sure that everything is covered from the card base, and it's just the perfect size trimmed to the card base. For the girl, I'm going to add it with some thin foam squares. Now you can also add it straight away or with some foam tape or anything like that. You can embellish your card if you want to. You can add some glitters, you can add bubbles, iridescent stuff. I decided to keep it as is by just adding this girl and leaving it as I have it right now. So it's really simple, but tons of colors. I know that I create a lot of clean and simple cards where I often use the same colors on the background, on the images, that there is a link between the colors, that I'm reusing colors. But I hope that with this card I can also show you that if you love colorful cards, that you can definitely also go clean and simple, although you want to use a ton of colors. It's perfectly fine. That's actually really joyful and fun. So I hope that this card can inspire you in any way. Don't forget, if you're creating Christmas cards with My Favorite Things products, that there is this challenge. You never know that you can win. I had tons of fun creating this one, so I really hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you all an incredible day, and I'll be back soon with some new craft inspiration. Bye!